Welcome everybody to the K&B Music Den. As always, I'm Brad, and you,
And
sir,
I am your friend, Keith.
you're all of our friends, right?
Oh man, it's my new thing. I don't know. I stumbled upon it, and I'm just sticking with it.
Okay, sounds good. Well,
Yeah.
guess what we're here to do today?
Well, I don't know, man. I clicked on the video and I read. I think there's a band called Gaslight Anthem. Have you ever heard of
There
them?
is, there is, and we're going to do a review on their new album, History Books.
Oh yeah. Well, speaking of history, what's your history with the band, Brad? Tell the people.
Well, it's a fascinating history. This is the band that I always joke around that is my soundtrack to life lately. When I got married, they released an album. When I got divorced, they released an album. When I met my new girlfriend that broke my heart, they released an album. And when my fiance died in a car accident, they released an album shortly after.
Oh yes, yes.
And each album seemed to really be one I can lean into and go, man, Brian seems to be on the same wavelength as me. There's a fly in my room.
Oh,
But
hey.
yeah, I mean, it's just kind of funny. There's always during monumental moments of my life a Gaslight album to
Yeah.
kind of dive into.
Wow.
But yeah, so this one was fascinating to me. What's your background with Gaslight?
Well, I don't have quite as an extensive background as you, but I do like the band. I've always
Okay,
liked them. And just to kind of prove my cred here, I just want to quickly show the folks what I have in my collection. Uh,
there you
got
go.
a flying there. Yeah, it's really interesting. For some reason, I just never stumbled upon a copy of the '59 Sound, which I know. I mean, I think seems to me a must-have for Gaslight fans.
It is.
Um, yeah, so I have to find that one. But and then I do also have handwritten. And I don't know if this is an extra, like a special version that has the covers at the end, or if the regular version does, maybe too. I don't know.
Yeah, it's expanded. Yeah.
Okay. And then I've got Get Hurt.
Yeah.
So those are the three I own, physical format wise, but I'm pretty familiar with all of them. And I actually last night, because I knew we were doing this video tonight, I also re-listened to Brian Fallon's solo albums just to
Okay. Yeah, it's good to do that because
wet my whistle. Yeah.
yeah, there's
So
some
yeah,
definite crossovers in here.
yeah.
All right, so I mean, just diving into the album itself, I'm going to kind
Go
of go
for it.
song by song, just to kind of see how we all feel about it. So
Okay.
the opening was Spider Bites.
Yeah.
To me, this was a I'm back in the band song. I mean, after like you just said, listening to Brian's two solo albums or
Yeah.
three actually. What am I talking about?
Three. Yeah.
Three, Local Honey. And
Yeah.
this to me was okay. I'm back in the band. I have
Yeah.
the boys behind me, and it was full on from that point.
Yeah.
Um, and
Agreed.
his lyrics were just where I used to remember him being. He had the line in here: "We circle around the sun until one day we don't." And I just, again, it hits me.
Yeah.
Um, Great opening track for a Gaslight Anthem song. I thought this was a great opening.
I agree. I
Okay.
agree. It pulled me in, because I was thinking, yeah, it's been a while since they've
Yep.
released an album. It seemed to me. Excuse me. So, yeah, it pulled me in. And I thought, yeah, it was a strong opener. Musically, really just grabs you. And yeah, he's just, I think he's, and I know you agree with this. I think he's an
Mhm.
underrated artist.
Oh, by far.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That kind of goes into my next track here, History Books with
Featuring.
Bruce.
Yeah.
With Bruce, the man. So, what did you think? I know you're a huge Bruce fan. We both are. What did you think of Bruce on this song?
I thought this was a great collaboration.
Yeah.
I know Bruce has been a champion of Brian and the band
Yep.
for a while now. And Brian often gets compared to Springsteen. The lyrics telling the stories of the everyman, the blue collar, stories about love and the loss of love and the challenges of love. So I think I don't read Brian Fallon interviews frequently, but I mean I would think Springsteen's a big influence for him.
Oh,
I would assume he's pretty open about that.
yeah.
So I mean, honestly, I think this song has a great memorable hook. It just brings me down when I think of you now.
It does.
And Springsteen's verse, he just lays that shit out beautifully.
Oh, he does.
And one of the main things I thought about the song, as much as I beyond that, it's just a really strong track on the album, one of my favorites. I was just picturing how giddy Brian Fallon must have been to have Springsteen in the studio singing lyrics that he wrote. You know,
Oh God, man, can you
that must
picture
have
that?
been that must have been a great moment for him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for me, the same thing. I mean, great track, and like you said, lyricism. To me, you got Bruce, you got Brian, and you got Brandon. You got Bruce Springsteen, Brian Fallon, and Brandon Flowers. Those three guys with the BRs, to
Yeah,
me, are the best storytellers. Where it's not just they could paint pictures or stories with words. And
yes,
so I thought it was really cool to have two of the three on one track together.
yeah,
One thing that stuck out to me immediately, though, because again, I'm a pretty big fan. So
yeah,
one thing that Brian's always been very good at is a lot of his lyricism to me has a really strong reminiscent. He can reminisce. He can write about the past, paint pictures of the past. And there was a line he always had that I thought was very strange in a song called "Old Haunts" from American Slang.
okay.
Um, and it said, I got to remember exactly how it went, but um, he says, "So don't you sing your songs about the good times. Those days are gone, and you should just let them go. And God help the man who says, if I had known you when." But
I
in
remember
this
that.
song, History Books, Bruce Springsteen, the line, I believe it goes, "What's that you say? You knew me when. You don't look like that. You don't look too much like that now, my friend." But I just thought it was weird, that line, "You knew me when."
Yeah,
The first time I heard it from 2015 or 2010, actually, I
yeah,
thought
yeah,
that's a weird thing for you to say as someone who tends to look at the past a lot.
yeah,
And then to hear Bruce Springsteen basically say that line again, or I can't remember if it's him or Brian at that part, but I thought
yeah,
that was fascinating that lyric popped back out.
yeah. Thanks for mentioning that. I didn't catch that. I'm guessing that that was intentional on Brian's part to kind of harken back to his
I'm
um
wondering.
quote himself. And who does that a lot is Adam Duritz. Where he
Yeah.
goes back to older songs and mentioning, I'll talk about Elizabeth now.
Which, if
Years
you
later.
remember correctly, the first time I introduced you to this band, which probably was 2008 or 9, the first song you heard was the one where he sings, and it's that line from the Counting Crows. Oh man, about looking like
Oh, a boy who
Elvis.
looks like Elvis.
Yeah, and I remember you saying they're not ripping Adam Duritz off, are they? And I said, no, 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 they're fans. They're fans. So yeah, it's
That's funny.
definitely possibility he's pulling some Adam Duritz out there.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's never bad.
So
Yeah, man.
Autumn,
Autumn. I'm trying to remember that one. I remembered liking it. I don't remember much about it in this moment, but
it, it's
enlighten me.
it's definitely a great. It's a good track. It definitely is.
Yep.
As far as the first three is a little overshadowed by the first two, I think.
Yeah,
But again, a very good, strong track. I mean, another good band sounding track. Um, but yeah, this one probably did slip under you if you were just listening to the album the first two or three times. This kind of is an understated song.
yeah.
You can't say the same for the track after it, though.
Which is,
Positive Charge.
oh yeah, okay, yeah.
That's that one was the first one I heard off this album,
Oh,
and that's when I actually started doing some research as to whether or not Brian was dealing with grief, if he had lost somebody.
yeah,
Because lyrically, after losing my fiance,
yeah,
hearing the words in that song, I thought, oh my God, he painted that perfectly
yeah,
as to what you're kind of feeling like going through grief. So I don't know if he did lose anybody or where the someone I read just it's from depression. He was dealing with some depression. But man, I mean, lyrically, that song is there's just great line after great line on that track.
yeah. And you're bringing up something that I jotted down as like a more of a general thing.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to this album and the band in general. I think Brian Fallon is a master at telling stories in the verses,
Mm-hmm.
but still finding those memorable hooks and lines that you latch onto in the chorus.
Yes.
Very much like Springsteen,
Yes.
and Petty and all those heroes of ours. But he's got that. He's got that.
Oh, he does.
And I think I don't know. I think the band and Brian Fallon in particular, like I kind of mentioned earlier, are they have a very large and formidable fan base, something
Oh yeah.
to envy actually. But I just don't think they get the credit they really deserve to this point.
No, I would say not. I mean, that's a good point. I don't know where they kind of stack amongst contemporary rock bands, but their fan base, you would think they would be getting a lot more credit than they do, because I mean they definitely do have a rabid fan base. I got to see them in Asbury Park, kind of their hometown.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
you go see like a Stone Pony.
yeah. Of
I
course.
mean, great venue. I've seen
Yeah.
them in Philadelphia. I mean, and they always have just loud, raucous crowds. I mean, yeah. So I mean, I would imagine this is a band that stacks up pretty well. I don't know how they chart on Billboard, but
Well, and I mean this as a major compliment to the band.
Mhm.
They seem like the kind of band where if you would they would play a show and you'd walk through the crowd, you'd run into several people that would show you a tattoo they have
oh yeah,
that,
yeah,
that's related to a lyric or a song or artwork or just a band name or like, and that's a testament to how much they mean to people, which I think is amazing.
yeah. I actually have one, so
I was gonna say you probably do.
yeah, I do.
is
So that's
is it something you can show the folks, or is it on your ass?
not easily, no. So
Okay.
not easily, but yeah. So now we move on to Michigan, 1975.
Ooh,
In my head, I wrote down this is probably Keith's top one or two tracks.
yeah.
Yeah.
I pulled out three like we try to usually do in
Yeah.
an album review. I pulled out my top three, and I didn't really necessarily rank them, but this is in the top three. Yeah.
I figured it might be. This is
Yeah.
one that I kind of thought was more near. I like just the singer songwriter aspect of it with Brian going into. I think Keith's going to love this track.
Yeah, I do. I really do. I think it's a great storytelling, great lyrics, great vibe to the music, kind of that mid-tempo thing that they do very well. And that's another thing I noticed about this album in general. I think it's a great balance between songs like this and what I like to call the shit kickers that they do. They're just
Yeah.
in your face rock songs, with almost a touch of punk in there sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think it's a real good balance they found on this album.
Yeah, it's matured. The band matured.
Yes.
I think between the time he left Gaslight to write more of his singer-songwriter stuff till now, the ideas of the songs, everything's matured to the point where it works. Where maybe some of those solo albums he couldn't have put together with the band 5-6 years ago. So yeah. I know exactly what you mean. This is one of those ones where I don't know if it would have sounded right on the Gaslight Anthem album 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But now, perfect.
Yeah. No, well put. Yeah, this was a standout for me, definitely, sir.
Yeah. I like there's some lyrics I put on this one, too, because sometimes his lyrics just stand out. But he put, because if I could be free, why would I stay chained? And if that makes you sad, you should be ashamed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, again, well written.
Really well written.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. I will say, I've always liked this band. I've never been like, hardcore fan.
Mm-hmm.
But this album is really strong, man. It's really strong. Yeah.
Little Fires. To me, this was the first I had to have me back in the band, because this would not have worked any other way. This is very upbeat, very, you needed all the numbers. Benny, I think, sounded fantastic on the drums on this one.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, again, you couldn't have done this song 5 years ago solo. So,
yeah. Well, I'll just say it. It's in those top three of my favorite songs on the album, Little Fires. And in the end, we all burned little fires. That refrain at the end of the song. Yeah, this goes under the shit kicker category.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, this thing's a ball of fire to me.
It is. It is.
And I love it. That 1-2 punch right there in the middle of this album is a big moment for me.
I thought it might be. Might be because they're diverse too, which is nice.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, it's a good diverse 1-2 punch. They both hit well.
Yeah, shows off what they can do. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, The Weatherman was the first song, the next track we come up to, where I thought this really sounds solo. This sounds like it should have been on probably Local Honey or one of the other albums. It didn't work as well for me as a band piece, but I have heard other people that are friends of mine that are, like this band a lot, and they are big fans of this track. So,
yeah. I enjoyed it. I understand what you're saying, and I can't really disagree. But yeah, I love that lyric. I am a weatherman watching the skies, trying to read you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool line.
That's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, Brian is just lyrically, there's a handful I can pull it off.
Yeah.
Okay, we have Empire. What do you think of Empire?
Well, Empires. This is the only one that I pulled out a lyric that wasn't like a chorus hook lyric. This is like a verse lyric.
I wonder if it's the same I wrote down. Let's see.
Oh man. Okay. I'm gonna read mine and then we'll see. We might get two examples for the folks or just one. Let's
Okay.
see. I wrote, if the winter don't kill me, then it might be the cold, and the money won't keep me warm from the love that I killed and the dreams that I stole that add up inside of my bones.
Well, that's all. But yeah, again, fantastic Fallon.
Yeah.
I can't remember going back in my head where if this was a verse or if this is bridge word, but it says, "I learned there's an evil in the heart of the world, much more in the heart of a man."
Yes. Dude, that was the other one I was toying with writing down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
that's funny.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Now,
I think this is a good song. Yeah.
I live in the room above her. How do you feel about that one?
That one was interesting. That one to me was a really good example of him writing in a way that puts you there.
Yes.
Like you are, what he's seeing, what he's hearing, what he's observing in the room above him and this girl and all that. I mean, the way he delivers that, I mean, you are there in the room.
And he kind of harkens back to David in the Bible with Bathsheba.
Yeah.
Very fascinating to even go there. It's kind of like the song Hallelujah where
yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, very fascinating that came out.
Yeah. No, I thought that was that almost made my top three.
Did it?
Yeah.
What was the third?
History books actually.
Okay, so it was history books and then
and then Michigan 1975 and Little Fires were my top three.
Now I left no notes for A Lifetime of Preludes because this is your closing of an album is Keith's baby. So
well,
did he nail the end? Did he stick the landing on this one?
I think he did. I like the slow vibe. I like the pensive vibe of it.
Okay.
And in retrospect, it's actually kind of surprising it didn't make my top three.
Okay.
Although I think Michigan 1975 edged it out because they have similar vibes to me.
They do.
But yeah, I mean, if you're asking me, did they stick the landing on this one? I'm going to go ahead and definitely say yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, good. So now, you're not like you said, you're not a huge Gaslight fan. But would this be one you would ever purchase on vinyl, or would this be a CD find, or neither?
I would if I only had one Gaslight Anthem album on vinyl, I would probably go with American Slang.
It's so funny you say that. That's my favorite too.
Yeah. But if I found, the CD, sometimes CDs are out for a while or people get promo copies and they sell them for like $5 or whatever.
Yeah.
I would snag it without hesitation. And funny you ask, because I did see in my local record store earlier today, they had this new one on the wall. I think it was like $25. Well, what I'm saving up for, a big purchase happening tomorrow. So
we got a bunch of stuff to be buying, but yeah, for me, I probably would buy this just because I buy pretty much all Gaslight.
Yeah.
I think this falls in line great. I would give this a good score if I were to grade it. As far as where it stacks amongst Gaslight albums, to me, they kind of grow. Each one kind of has I see them all, like I said, they all kind of fit in my life as like a big old movie. But yeah, American Slang, I think, is always going to be my favorite, which is weird. I don't think that's the consensus favorite, but it's funny you also have that feeling. And then, like you said, I mean, you have Get Hurt's probably my least favorite, which is weird. I think a lot of people. I didn't love Get Hurt as much, but yeah, I mean, this would probably be in the top three.
Yeah, I think not being as immediately familiar with their entire discography as you, I might even put this number 2.
59 Sound. You have to get that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's the one I've been sleeping on.
You dive into that, and I think you'll change your mind. But yeah, after those two, I think you're probably safe to put 3.
Well, and that brings up something I wanted to ask you about because you're such a big fan. It seems to me that Brian Fallon's vocals now are noticeably less gravelly. than they were early in his career. I mean, I think
Hmm.
I softened his approach a bit. And I don't know. Now this, I have an example of another band that this happened with. With the band I'm about to mention, it's much more obvious and
Okay.
extreme. But Kings of Leon.
Oh
Um,
yes, yeah.
I mean, when you listen to the first two, even three Kings of Leon album, it sounds like Caleb fucking, like
Yep.
gargled razor blades, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And when they went that fourth album with Sex on Fire and everything changed. And I'm not saying there's some good albums, there's some really good songs from that album on,
Yeah.
but the first two, three albums were just like, and it's interesting because initially when I heard Chris Bow recommended Kings of Leon to me. And when I first heard it, I bought the second album, Aha Shake Heartbreak, on his recommendation. The first few times I heard it, I'm like, this guy's voice sucks. Like I couldn't get into it. And then I became obsessed with it. I love it now.
Yeah.
But then when Caleb softened his voice and kind of stopped swallowing the razor blades and cleared up his throat a bit,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't the same for me. Now, I think with Brian here in this band, it's not as wide of a gap and it's not as noticeable. But to me, it seems like his vocals are a little smoother and less abrasive. What are your thoughts on that as being such a big fan, or your insight on that for me?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think his early work, like Sink or Swim, This Charming Man, I think it's Cincinnati Railroad, if I'm not mistaken, some of these side projects. Yeah, the sound was more upbeat, more fast paced, and I think there was more gravel in the voice, more aggression in the way he's singing it. Whereas now, I think he's really embraced the songwriting process and is kind of leaning into his singer songwriter side, which is bringing more of that gentle approach to the vocals. That's my outtake on it.
Yeah. Which I don't know. I kind of like having both Gaslights,
Yeah.
I kind of like being able to go to both, depending on, my mood or what have you. But one other thing I want to ask you about this band, 'cause I know this is a big band for you, and Brian Fallon, you're a big fan. What would you say is the main difference between Gaslight albums and Brian Fallon solo albums? Aside from the obvious that it's more singer-songwriter and things like that, but do you notice any major difference in like lyrical content, or is it like, well, Brian is Brian, or like, what are your thoughts on the difference between the two camps?
I think overall it's very similar when you break it down side by side.
Yeah.
I think from what I understand and read, he just missed being in a band.
Yeah.
I think he literally, if I remember reading correctly, he reached out to Bruce and said, Bruce, I miss being in a band. And that's really what it comes down to, I think. Because otherwise, I think he's writing the same way. I think because these songs like The Weatherman, Michigan 1975, they would not have been on some of the earlier albums. So I think he's allowing himself to be more singer-songwriter, but he still wants that band writing process.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear you say that, because it's with not being as deeply involved and as well-versed as you are. And like I said last night, just for the enjoyment of it, I listened through his solo albums again. And I felt the same way, that, it's not like, you pull a song off a solo album, you pull a song off a Gaslight Anthem album, and it's like night and day or anything. It's kind of in the same wheelhouse, which I think makes sense.
It does.
If you're a fan of Gaslight and then you go get a Brian Fallon album and it sounds like, Yanni, you're going to be upset.
No, he's a very authentic musician. I think he's going to write what he's writing. It's just based on, is he going to be collaborative or is it going to be solo?
Exactly. Yeah. Sometimes it can be as simple as that.
Yeah.
So, well, I enjoyed this. I'm very glad we reviewed it. Glad to hear your thoughts on it and being such a big fan. It's one of those things where if I did buy the new one on vinyl, I would be happy that I did and say, I'm glad I did that, that's more of just what I've got in the tank right now has nothing against the band, and that's not buying at the moment. Like we said, we got a huge purchase tomorrow coming up with Ryan Adams. So, but folks, what are we gonna say?
Subscribe?
Well, yeah, but
and
they gotta subscribe, they gotta like, they gotta share the video. Something about a bell. I don't know.
Oh, ding the bell.
Ding the bell. But more important than all that self-promoting crap that I always love to focus on at the end of the videos, let us know what you think of History Books by Gaslight
Yeah.
Anthem. Put it in the comments, and we will be back soon with more content. Thanks for listening to us talk about this album. And Brad, thanks for your knowledge and expertise on all things Gaslight, and Brian, and leading us through this one.
Absolutely. Look forward to the next.
All right. We'll see you folks soon. Weigh in. Let us know what you think of the new Gaslight album. See ya.
See ya.